an isekai anime.
What, Nux? You don't know that according to the AniTube community, liking isekai anime is like the cardinal sin?
Yes, I do, young Padawan, but fuck that, because when you get down to it, Overlord is a fun, freaking anime. So even if you don't see it, it's still doing something right. And that something, for most people, I believe, is Ains Ooal Gown, and the respect he commands. Not just from his underlings, not just from his enemies, but the respect he commands from every viewer, and I'll get to the nuances behind an escapist isekai compared to what Overlord actually is. I mentioned doing an OP analysis on Ainz very briefly during my OP analysis on Meliodas, and honestly, I can hardly remember the last time I got that many excited comments on one throwaway mention. Not that I'm upset or anything, because after I end up doing one of these OP analyses, I find myself liking that character in the series way more. So thanks, fam. If you like this style video, feel free to subscribe and join the fan base. Now, let's discuss our favorite self-proclaimed emperor. After God Usopp. Come on, I think that's pretty much unanimous. We know Usopp is like rank 1, but then we have Ainz. Firstly, I think we need to define exactly how overpowered he actually is. So after much contemplation and research, I came to the conclusion that he's, to find the technical term, very overpowered. He fucking molests the shit out of everyone and everything he faces. And it gets to the point that no matter what new magic monster summoning, death reviving, teleporting, OP ass scratching power he comes up with, while in your average anime it will be annoying by the fact that Ainz was placed on a pedestal head and shoulders above basically everything we've seen in this verse. It serves as a benefactor of his immense power done right, as I'll explain here, rather than disbelief momentary ass pulls that we see in so many other series. On the contrary, we expect him to have some magic country-destroying skeleton monster Jinchuriki shoved somewhere up his anus. And our expectations are always further blown away because that Jinchuriki happened to be the Ten Tails, for lack of a better metaphor. The first 2/3 of the first season of Overlord was set up to cement this fact. Ainz is an unstoppable force. His overwhelming might is first revealed against weaklings. He progresses to use a single summon monster to defend an entire village. He personally takes on the leader of that invasion and specifically asks his aid not to interfere as he blows away the initial attack, and it's then revealed that the opponent is now using his ultimate angel trump card. Intrigued, Ainz doesn't even set up a defense to take the attack head on, just to further establish the insane power gap between them, and proceeds to take said trump card out with the snap of his fingers. Until now, we know he's ridiculously powerful, but being that he's in a new world that both the viewers and the character are experiencing simultaneously, it's difficult to compare his power level with the world's elite since there's still so much unknown. Eradicating that unknown was the purpose of the second third of the first season, where he's considered immensely powerful in knight form, which is clearly weaker than his mage form, and to further that, he completely overpowers Clementine, known as one of the world's strongest without even needing to cast a spell. Not only did this arc serve the purpose to reveal his insane might, but we start realizing that his underlings are a force to be reckoned with as well, with one of his maids being able to take down a foe that threatens a country with legendary skeleton dragon thingies that she wiped out by essentially farting on them. This is the point of the series where everyone is supposed to ask themselves, why am I still here? Why can I enjoy a battle anime where there's no threat posed to the main character? Kirito lost more than Ainz and struggled harder. That's when artifacts are introduced. The universe may possess something to rival Ainz' power, and the season concludes with Ainz defeating one of his own servants whose mind has been tainted by an artifact. That proved to be his first arduous battle in the series, and it insinuates two incredibly important points. Firstly, there may come an adversary that possibly surpasses Ainz in the future, and secondly, his servants are ridiculously freaking powerful and contain individual story arcs as well. That's the purpose of Season 1 to this end in a nutshell, introducing us to a new world and relaying how our main character relates to that world. Before even stepping foot into Season 2, we're looking at a main character that in his own head is like any of us, yet outwardly retains a composure that commands fear and respect. And most impressively, he's come to terms with the fact that now that his consciousness is truly imbibed in this game world, in the form of an undead mage, he's living with a constant dampener on his very emotions, making any inhuman decisions he makes far more understandable to us. He's no longer a human and no longer has possession of human morality. He can now become an overlord. He probably doesn't want me to tell you this, but he probably also doesn't have a penis, which makes hiding that constant boner way easier. Let me just add. Now our story can really begin, where everything was put into perspective as far as our situation, finally understanding all the basic pieces on the board, which is why when Season 2 begins, the focus dramatically shifts away from Ainz, treating him almost as a side character. Because to truly understand any truly overpowered character, yes, we have to understand his comparative power level to the rest of his verse. We have to understand how the world affects him, and now it's time to see how he affects the world. Hence, the lizard porn arc. Yes, there was a whole arc of lizards having sex. It was very exhilarating. But the idea was to show the reptiles' political infrastructure and how it was greatly affected by Ainz, and how once they were absorbed into Ainz's empire, how their regard of him completely shifted. Then the series moves on to the Sebas arc, to see how Ainz affects his universe, even though it's not in his direct presence and without his direct attention. Also, we have to understand how his servants regard their own individual surroundings, each of them possessing their own singularity, and not just being part of a collective. With Sebas being a kind soul, helping those in danger, and training and uplifting the spirits of those in need, who, by the way, was influenced and inspired by Ainz in the past, and how Sebas was seeking nothing in return. And on the flip side, we have a tattletale bitch who's, well, a tattletale bitch. Yes, very defining character trait. Ainz doesn't know how he ended up where he is, nor how to return home, but he'll make the most of it, simultaneously playing on both ends of the spectrum, as the heroic knight and as the seemingly tyrannical overlord, where every action he takes on either side of the spectrum plays upon each other and creates a drastic implication on his world. And this is the beginning of how you're supposed to regard Ainz and why he's an overpowered character done really well. When you look at your average overpowered main character, especially in a Trapped in Another World anime, the creators play off the fantastic scenario where our protagonist can utilize all the abilities both he and the viewers always dreamed of having, making him a brilliant escapist protagonist, as I briefly mentioned before, and how he thwarts and overpowers his adversaries, where he becomes the hero. And since it's an escapist-focused anime, why not throw in a harem of 24 bitches and Klein? It's very difficult to write yourself out of that situation, to give the series a credible plot or a progressive development. Overlord is playing an entirely different game, which makes its version of an OP isekai MC actually work. When your average isekai OP protagonist wins 3 fights in a row because he's just overpowering all of his opponents, it gets predictable, redundant, and makes everyone less excited for what the future holds. When Ainz wins 3 fights in a row because he's just overpowering all his opponents, we have a series that somehow retains its excitement, where the fearful respect for WD Gown is only increasing on a universal scale. He also doesn't try to be all modest about his victories. On the contrary, he makes the most of every move he takes to spread his name and legend across the land, which honestly, as far as main characters go, is a breath of fresh air. Again, he doesn't have the moral setbacks of many protagonists due to his pure nature of being undead, but the true reason why he's an overpowered main character done right, more than almost any other isekai protagonist, is in plain sight. The answer to all this lies in the title of the series, Overlord. That's what he is, and that's also what he's trying to become. He'll do everything in his immense power to make that happen, and we all want to be there to see it. Whenever your average isekai OP protagonist wins a fight, it's clear that the series did that to make him seem more badass, which is why most of their major battles seem to have extremely difficult victories, and always manage to get a girl or 4 to fall in love with him after the fight. But let's not forget that our OP isekai protagonist is freaking overpowered, because whenever he fights someone that's supposed to be near his power level, he demolishes them. When Ainz wins a fight, it's designed to increase his empire. So when he has his tumultuous victory, we're now regarding the awesomeness of his reign. They're not trying to prove to us how badass he is as an individual. Okay, maybe that too, but that's not the main goal. Whenever he has a hard time winning a fight, on the other hand, it's not to serve the purpose of making his character more badass that he actually accomplished something he seemingly shouldn't have been able to do. We know all that already. It's to introduce artifacts or to hype his servants. It has another purpose. The series is called Overlord, so we're watching the ascent of an overlord. In a show like, for example, Sword Art Online, we want to see the world of Sword Art Online, immediately putting Kirito in a completely different perspective as far as what we want to see than the harbinger of fear and awe, Lord Ainz Ooal Gown. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like this overpowered analysis done right series, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to join the fan base. Let me know what other overpowered characters you would want me to cover, and in the meantime, feel free to check out my other analysis and satire content. That lovely borderline cringy insane mix that you won't find anywhere else. Thanks for always putting up with me, guys. Stay weird, fam.